Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Thank you to everyone for joining us today for Citrix Pass, no assembly required. I am Matthew Metelsky, CEO of Third Octet, and I'm extremely excited to be with you all today and to share the virtual stage with some fantastic storytellers. You know, when we thought of the time of day to host this event, originally we planned for the morning, but after reviewing the theme of the events and imagery to come, we moved it to post-lunch for fear of losing everyone. Fair warning, if you enjoy pizza, the imagery you are about to see may be overly pleasant, comforting, and extremely delightful. I hope you had lunch, and sorry, Mark, to put you through this so early in the morning. Let's get started. Oops, focus on the screen. So today I join a group of fantastic individuals. Not only are they great champions of Citrix and digital workspaces, they're also the challengers around the future of work. But they're also fantastic storytellers. And I have to be honest, I typically listen to these individuals as an attendee. I feel quite fortunate to have them joining us today. Thank you, gentlemen. First up, as Managing Director, Mark Monday is responsible for Citrix's global partner go-to-market strategies around intelligent workspaces and immensely supportive of partner sustainability and growth. Good morning, Mark. How about a quick intro of yourself and...
Good morning. I mean, you had me at pizza. The moment I heard pizza, I was all in. Matthew, team, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so excited about what we're doing here at Citrix. Pardon? Whoops. Matt, are you still there?
Hey, Mark, I can hear you.
Yep. Sorry if we can't hear Mark, but let's move up to Matt Crawford. As Director of Product Marketing for Citrix, Matt sets the global stage to highlight the value of Citrix products and solutions, especially on the Citrix Workspace portfolio. Beyond Citrix, I understand Matt has also spent time in the Navy, in the cockpit of F-14 Tomcat. Good afternoon, Matt. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and of course, what's your favorite pizza?
Absolutely, but first, let me do a quick sound check. Can you hear me okay, Matt?
I got you, Matt. I think.
Yeah, I'm worried, Matt. I'm going to put something in the chat. You may not be hearing us. Yeah. While I do that, I am going to introduce myself.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
I seem to have some audio issues.
Put that in the chat real quick.
Okay, Matt, tell us if we hear you again. Can you hear us?
Well, I think we might have lost our host, Mark.
It seems like it. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we proceed? Matt, tell me about your absolute favorite.
All right, Matt's going to figure that out in a second. But and yeah, so I'm at Citrix. I work on our digital workspace portfolio. I'm product marketing. I enjoy talking to customers all the time. I'm looking forward to giving a little bit of high-level strategy of how the folks on the line can think about their digital workspace strategy. In answer to the question of the day, I actually spent a lot of time in Chicago.
Yes.
And there I developed an affinity for Chicago deep dish. It
was good.
In specific, Lou Malnati's, if anybody is familiar with the Chicago area pizza chains.
You can get Lou Malnati's online and delivered to your home. Terrific stuff.
Yeah. So back over to you, Mark. Let's go. We'll keep things rolling. You can do a little quick intro.
Yeah, I'll just try to keep emceeing until we get Matt back.
I believe I am back. Can you guys?
Perfect. Okay.
Yes, and I can hear you all. I realize the mistake is nothing like live time, real time troubleshooting, but I am back. So sorry if I was interrupting you, Mark. I didn't hear your favorite pizza. I apologize.
So Matt and I both love Chicago. And we both love pizza. But the big debate in Chicago is, what is a Chicago-style pizza? Most of you, including Matt, think that Chicago-style pizza is the super thick pizza with the sauce on top, which I do quite love. But my wife is a hardcore South Sider. And on the South Side, it is a thin pizza cut into squares. And that is a pizza place called Aurelio's Pizza on the South Side. And so we're going to have a battle between Lou Malnati's and Aurelio's.
And probably between the Sox and the Cubs too, but that's a story for another day.
I'm gonna go, but here's the funny thing: I'm always a Cubs fan, so I go back from the north side to the south side. I'll play both sides of the fence.
All right, well, thank you, and I do apologize again for the audio difficulties there. I was the fool in having the tech background. I'm a little embarrassed, but nonetheless, let's move on. I think we'll have to get a great opportunity for Ani Tackle. As a digital strategist and senior principal in Citrix's strategic business advisor group, Ani aids organizations in realizing the full value of Citrix solutions. Good afternoon, Ani. Thanks for joining today. Tell us a bit about yourself and what's your favorite pizza?
So I'll start with my favorite pizza. My favorite pizza is the New York style pizza, cheese pizza. And I'm a vegetarian, so there's a lot of options in New York around that. So that's my favorite pizza. In terms of what I do with Citrix and my experience, I've been in the business for 2.5 decades, and I've worked around every geo and industry vertical, and I love interacting in the field with customers, essentially building the digital transformation journey from a business outcome perspective and aligning business objectives with how technology can amplify and accelerate the transformation to the business and keeping our customers competitive. So that's what I love to do and interact with customers. And yep, that's pretty much about me.
Thank you, Ani. As mentioned, I am Matthew Metelsky. I'm the CEO of Third Octet. My favorite pizza is the Diavolo. Okay, so this is a perfect blend of spicy and sweetness. It's sopressata with hot chili peppers drizzled with honey. It kind of mirrors my personality. Anyways, today...
Yeah, the sweetness, the spicy with the sweet. I think you just nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we'll be covering a few interesting topics and highlighting why now is an ideal time to transition to Citrix Cloud services. You know, and over the past many months, we can all agree life has been different. It's been a tiring time, devoid of much needed optimism, yet there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And we have a great opportunity to learn from the unexpected challenges thrown our way. Mark and I will spend a few candid moments talking about how we can evolve from the lessons of yesteryear and then draw parallels around pizza and obviously cloud. Next up, Matt Crawford will discuss the immense extensibility of Citrix Cloud services to simplify complexity around apps, desktops, data, and work management. Then Ani will explore the rapidly evolving digital landscape and identify strategies of Citrix Cloud services to increase IT efficiency, reduce cost and risk, expedite innovation, and compete more effectively. And some housekeeping, we will be reserving some time at the end for any questions. If any troubleshooting things like my camera is frozen or my audio, feel free to chime in there. But at any time, if you have any questions, drop them in the GoToWebinar. I think it's a Q&A section. I'll be watching. We'll do our best to address them at the end. If we do not get to your question live, we will follow up with you outside the event. And lastly, this event will be recorded and available in the future on our website, thirdoctet.com. And of course, I hope you're not all here for the pizza, but there is pizza. If you've not heard of General Assembly Pizza, you're in for a treat. Based out of Toronto, General Assembly Pizza introduced a subscription service during the pandemic, an innovative move that brings pizza to your doorstep every single month. Interesting tidbit, if you have kids, they actually package the pizza with dry ice. Take that dry ice, drop it in some water. It's good fun. Just don't touch it with your bare hands. You have to stick around, okay? And after the event, we'll send out a voucher to claim your complimentary 4-stack of General Assembly pizza. Your choice, your way, obviously just like cloud. For the record, I could easily eat 4 of those in one sitting. But, you know, as CEO of Third Octet, it's my pleasure and fiduciary duty to tell you all how fantastic and fortunate Third Octet is. My role is to help set the stage for Third Octet's current and future strategy. I'm a contributor to our growth, but massively dependent on the team of amazing individuals who do the real work day in, day out. Our service desk, our engineers, our architects, our sales team, our admin staff, all are really instrumental in making Third Octet who we are today. I would not be here if it weren't for the 15 people I count on every day at Third Octet. And quite a few of them are here today. I can see some familiar names. Our people are really important, but our vision is not modeled on our staff alone. It is based on what we want in life: balance, a better way. And, you know, I have 3 kids, a beautiful wife. Children are amazing beings. They are awfully blunt. And their questions really try to get to the root. Why is the most widely used word in my house. There's the soft whys, and then there's the hard, top of the lung whys. But since I've been working from home for so long, my kids have seen me daily. The volume of work I do, the odd hours I often spend working. Why do you work so much, Daddy? That's what they ask. And they ask me quite a bit. It's really a grounding question, one that makes you think whether you actually do have to work at that time, or can it be pushed, delegated, or ignored? It's led to my constant thought of, work will always be there, life will not. But aside from why I'm always working type questions, my kids are genuinely interested in what I and Third Octet do. Answering that question is a bit of a challenge. Explaining the core of what we do, whether it's Citrix, digital workspaces, cloud, to any kid is difficult. I usually have some success in drawing parallels to Minecraft or Roblox, and conversation goes like this. You know how Roblox is always on, always current, and delivering fun games to your iPad or to your laptop? Yeah, Dad. Well, we do that, but for business, and it's not games, it's applications, and sometimes it's fun. But answering really to the roots, why do we do this? That's always their ultimate goal. And I will tell them, I do this to make a better world for you. That is why I work. And that is why Third Octet exists. We strive to provide technology solutions that provide a positive difference in people's lives. We believe there are better ways to work. We believe successful businesses are built on happy, engaged, and collaborative employees. Employees who are able to focus on the high value and deeply meaningful work. Employees who are able to feel fulfilled in their work and detach from work without stress and enjoy their own time. Our technology solutions focus on removing physical place and technology as a barrier to productivity. And this is what allows employees to work when, where, and however they choose. That allows them to define their own work-life balance. This is how we better the world through technology. And from a solutions delivery perspective, we focus on 4 key pillars. 1, digital workspace involves the development of end-to-end workspaces, inclusive of apps, desktops, data, and workflows. And it's designed to suit the unique requirements around employee experience and anywhere demand, which has been immense the past 14 months. Collaboration defines the efficient and effective use of communication platforms, asynchronous, synchronous, to enhance engagement internally and externally. Hybrid cloud, as you all know, is quite popular. The transition of traditional legacy multi-tier architectures to integrate with public cloud to define that hybrid cloud model. And work automation involves the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence to mask repetitive tasks and surface that high value work. And we're able to define these solutions using a small vendor strategy inclusive of Citrix, Microsoft, iGel, Lenovo, and a few other complementary vendors. And we're recognized in the top partner tiers and have been awarded Partner of the Year from Citrix back in 2017 and iGel for the past 2 years, and a few nominations from Microsoft. And from a services ability, we combine our solution expertise with deep technical excellence in providing professional services, right, to aid in the architecture, deployment, and rollout of these core competencies. And then we shift that over to our collaborative services. It's the ongoing managed services to augment your existing skill sets so there are no gaps in coverage. And last but not least, we provide broad procurement capabilities to aid customers in acquiring technology goods and services, whether it's endpoint platforms to cloud subscriptions. And over the past many months, we've been very fortunate to aid a lot of businesses in establishing remote work strategy and across almost every vertical imaginable. We've also been fortunate to aid other organizations by donating time and resources to support their efforts for sustainability, community outreach, and mental health. It's been a privilege to serve businesses, the community, and our economy to alleviate stress and anxiety in this unique time. I want to thank everyone, our clients, our partners, and importantly, our team, many of who, again, I see you there today. For more about us, thirdoctet.com, or give us a call anytime. So enough about me, enough about Third Octet. Let's move on to talk about a few lessons of yesteryear and how we can evolve to be better people and create better workspaces. Good morning, Mark. Thank you for joining today.
Okay, we're connected. I can hear you. You can hear me.
Great. How's the weather out there in the Pacific Northwest?
You know, it is a little bit rainy, but the thing that I will say is the cloud is here. And so there's always a cloud over Seattle, good, better, and different. But it looks like it's going to be a beautiful weekend. This is a weekend where I always do a pretty famous bike ride focused on fundraising for homelessness here in the Seattle area. So I'm really looking forward to that one. It's called the Seven Hills of Kirkland, and that's going to be my big thing for Monday. So I'll do a training ride today, nap a little bit over the weekend, and then Monday I'll go hard on the bike ride.
Sounds great. It sounds like a good weekend. I'm hoping to get out and lose some balls in the forest on the golf course.
That sounds like fun.
It does. So, as Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, put it, we saw 2 years of digital transformation in 2 months. March of 2020 sparked a massive movement from what you thought of as the normal way of working to a largely remote workforce, especially in the knowledge sector. The chaos bred immense opportunity for everyone to punch above their weight, to move fast, to innovate, and more importantly, to protect people. And often we think of all the great work we did as IT to enable people to continue to work, right, was for that very reason, productivity, continue to drive the business. But I think it's more significant than that. The work we all did in IT to mobilize the workforce was done to protect people and ultimately to save lives. And Mark Monday had a great post on Citrix the other day, thanking us, Citrix partners. I'd like to take that a step further. To everyone on this call and to all IT individuals, you are all heroes, just like every frontline worker protecting people day in, day out. We may not necessarily be on those front lines per se, but your efforts were tremendous. And for that, thank you very much. And, to draw an example how small efforts can have a big impact, at Third Octet, we're only 15 people strong. And by, the end of April 2020, and after the many years of helping organizations design and deploy digital workspaces, we aided almost 40,000 people detach from a physical office immediately. And you compound out that over average family size, those small efforts can be immense. However, all this hard work we all did came at an incredible expense. Burnout. We're working more, we're increasingly stressed, our mental well-being is taking a hit. We're losing great people because we're having challenges defining boundaries and detaching from work. It's a holistic problem, and leadership must help. And, I'll take a quick jog back to my kids. There's another question they often ask me, and as a matter of fact, my son yelled it out just before I started this webinar. They ask me, are you the boss? And my answer is always, I guess. I don't often think of myself as a boss or as a leader. Generally, I think I'm learning to lead. But over the past year, I've found myself thinking more as a caretaker, worrying about the needs and wants of our people versus my own, versus the business. I found myself I found myself thinking that this is a challenging change of mindset, but still it's refreshing. On the one hand, as a leader, I need to ensure the business remains healthy from whatever output I'm referencing, profitability or put it into an IT perspective, uptime and SLAs. On the other hand, as a sympathizer, I need to protect our people from any threat, including burnout. I don't consider this a balancing act. I'm willing to negate profits if it means protecting our people. There is a more humane way to run an organization. And when I made the decision to move the company to a 4.5-day work week, I received praise and criticism. The praise I received was from our team, and that was the intent. The criticism was from the outside. Good luck taking that back. Your productivity will suffer. People will take advantage of you. I didn't do this for external perception. I did this for our team, to define boundaries on their behalf, to force them away from the keyboard without any fear of retribution. One thing I do wish I had done was to have acted earlier. My own business concerns as a young leader delayed my decision to implement this, and other people-centric policy changes at Third Octet. And that delay caused us to lose some good people. I regret my inaction. However, part of being better to yourself is not beating up yourself over the actions of your past. I learned the lesson. I committed to not repeat it, and I'm moving on. I'm not dwelling on it. And this is very interesting topic for Mark and Citrix as well. And Mark, you recently sat down with Channel Futures, something I can't recall, to discuss this very topic. And it's quite an impressive focus for Citrix, burnout and well-being. Can you share your thoughts and some of the insight learned from the great research you and the team have done?
I mean, you just nailed it. First of all, thank you to all IT pros. I think you're really onto something. The heroes in all of this that kept everyone safe by being able to be remote is IT. 40,000 customers, 40,000 individuals, and then just magnify that. Hundreds of millions of users working remotely, basically overnight, because of IT, because of technology. That has been underlooked, but it's not underappreciated. The other thing that I really liked about what you said, Matthew, is at Citrix, we believe the future of work is personal. And we've been saying this for a while, but the studies prove right now something like 37 to 50% of employees are saying that they're working harder than they've ever worked. The time that they gain maybe from not doing a commute, which is great, has been taken up by more work. And frighteningly, 30 to 50% of those individuals are saying that they're experiencing depression, anxiety, and malaise for the first time in their professional careers. And so as we talk to CIOs, their number one concern right now is employee well-being and productivity. And I think this is an area where technology can do its part, as you've described, through remote work, secure work, better processing tools, better systems. And I think that's what's so exciting, because if we think about the value that we're trying to deliver is that future of work, because the future of work is personal, and we want to give people the time to think, to explore, and to create. The other thing that I thought was interesting in that particular study was that bad process has been exposed in ways that we've never saw before. In the past, and I've used this example a few times, if you needed to go get a procurement request, maybe you could go from one person's desk to the other and kind of work it around, even though the process wasn't good on the back end. Now, when we're all remote, all of a sudden employees may not have the same threshold for a challenge like that. And that's where I think the technology can really solve a lot of those problems. So I fully support what you're saying. And then I think kudos to you for taking care of your people. I think what we're going to see in the next wave is this massive attrition. Now that people realize that some of the lockdowns are over, they're looking for environments where they can do their best work without feeling that level of burnout and without feeling that level of anxiety or malaise. And so I think that's the future, what we're seeing, and that's what CIOs, COOs, and VPs of HR are telling us.
Yeah, no, that's great insight, Mark. And I mentioned the word dwell before, right? Dwelling on things. And I use that word often not only for its literal meaning, but to paint a picture of how many of us may feel at times, including myself. Think of a deep well, a water well that's perhaps now dry. There's a bucket and a rope used for retrieving water that's long gone. You're at the bottom of that well, and the bucket and rope are outside of your reach. You have no way of getting out. You're stuck. You can't climb the walls because they're steep and slick, and the well is so deep that no one can hear you. And the only way for you to get out is if someone happens to lower the bucket. And you can only wait and hope that someone happens to stumble on that well. It's a lonely feeling. And, my times in the deep well or the dwell are frequent, whether it's spurred by stress, by setbacks, by things beyond my very control. And as a leader, I made that well deeper at times because I was not sharing my own challenges, right? Of being a leader, of running a business, of taking on too much, right? Saying yes versus no. And also about worrying how deep everyone else's wells were. And as much as I tried to lower the bucket for everyone else, my well would only get deeper. And so the only way I would get out of my well and be able to better help others is by sharing openly my own challenges. Because I figured the more hands, or the more opportunity for hands on the rope, the better. So addressing the challenges around well-being, around burnout, around mental health, it has to start from the top. It has to be open dialogue. Right? We have to be compassionate about our own challenges to really help others and walk in their shoes and really be present in the absence of any need. And that is things like checking in frequently. So that's my little story about the well, the deep well. You're all free to use it because I think it's very representative of how many of us can feel at times. But
yeah, and kudos to you, Matt. I mean, again, I think you're expressing a lot of leadership. You take a lot of that on yourself, but the reality is we do all need to recharge and refresh. We're not machines, we're human beings. And I think giving people that space to recharge, to use a computer metaphor, I mean, a lot of times you have to reboot. A lot of times you just have to unplug it. And then generally it works better when you do that. And I think that's an area where we can all excel. So kudos to you, Matt, for leading from the top in terms of that level of empathy and respect for people's time and energy.
Well, thank you for that, Mark. It is near and dear to my heart, and I think being a better leader starts with leading with heart. And it's these types of examples that if we're able to set from a leadership perspective, and don't think of just leadership as the CEO. This is everyone who is responsible for people. And you don't necessarily have to be a manager or a director or whatever it may be. You can be a leader in your own right by setting some of these examples, right? So other people and the business at large can build this psychological safety where it's okay to talk about things, right? And that'll help us drive this immense focus on employee experience beyond just the technology, perhaps into the psychology. And we have a great opportunity by doing that to reshape the future of work. And with IT becoming more strategic, you all play a pivotal role and carry a strong voice in guiding leadership. And this better workplace really begins with trust. Trust in yourself, your team, and more importantly, building your team's trust in your abilities to guide everyone on the same path. And to do that, you have to provide hope, right? If you're addressing an IT challenge or a strategic imperative for the business, communicate a clear plan in response to these challenges of yesteryear. But identify how each and every person on that team, their small efforts make a huge difference, a positive difference. And again, leading with that compassion. One positive of the pandemic, I will say, is it brought a lot of these distant topics to the forefront. Things like inclusion, diversity, obviously mental health and well-being. And a better workplace leads with people. So it's important that we continue to keep these critical topics front and center as we move forward. In IT, critical role in this direction. Better technology drives better employee experience. It minimizes stress, allows individuals to feel accomplished when not burdened by technology challenges. And then there's this whole concept of the Great Reset. And Mark and I were talking a little bit earlier about this. And it's popular, right? The future of work doesn't have to be framed by the past. The concept of 9 to 5, where work happens, when work happens, how work happens. Breaking down these barriers, physical or not, allows us to move forward and shift our thinking to focus on the fundamentals of human nature to build these new organizations. And of course, a better workplace drives a brighter future. You know, for an IT organization to talk about happiness as much as we do is odd. But we fundamentally believe that if I can accomplish what I need to accomplish at work, whether it's 9 to 5, whether it's my odd shifts of 9 to 11, 1 to 3, and then 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., if I'm able to do that without stumbling over technology, I feel fulfilled. I'm happy. I'm not stressed worrying about what I have to do next, or I couldn't get this done because technology got in the way. I can then revisit what my priorities are. More family time, more me time, more learning how to ride a bike. I can ride a bike, but I wouldn't dare go on the Kirkland race with Mark over the weekend because I'm not equipped for that, but I could, right? And so this me time, this family time is very important. And Mark, your podcast, again, I always think about that because it's very important, right? Defining these barriers for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, this is the challenge with work today, right? You walk outside of your door and it might be, I don't know, 10 feet, 2 meters, and you're in your life. There's no commute, there's no walk home, there's no driving the car, there's no listening to the radio. It's all happening right there. And all of a sudden your work is in your home. And I think that's where it's important for us. I have a good friend who's a public speaking coach. He hasn't done a good job on me yet, but two things that he recommends. One is create a false commute. And what that means is rather than just rolling out of bed, walking to your laptop, booting it up, and diving into the first call of the day, create a routine where you can charge up in the morning. That could be driving around the corner to pick up a cup of coffee. It could be walking the dog, but something, sitting down and having breakfast with your kids, but something where you have that space between waking up and engaging. And the second thing this guy recommends is having a process for ending your day. And I've talked about this a couple times online. It's a little bit weird, but I literally say to myself, powering down system. And when I say powering down system, I go through a process of turning off my laptop, closing its lid, turning off each and every light. I have 4 lights in this particular office, each of the lights, and closing the door. And that tells my body and my mind the workday is over. And I don't come back in here again. And those 2 little tips have been incredibly helpful. So I hope they're helpful for some folks. It feels weird the first couple times you do it, but it actually is incredibly liberating.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mark. And I want to make sure we give enough time for Matt and Ani. You know, I chewed up a bit of time. I do have the gift of the gab. But yeah, important for us, work-life balance. It is Third Octet's tagline for more than just a cliche. This is very near and dear to our heart. Technology is vetted by this concept, and we do a very hard effort in ensuring that everything we do for organizations is contributing in some way to helping them define work-life balance. But in the background here is what I'm more interested in, Mark. Pizza. You know, pizza is more than just pizza, right?
Yes.
I got 2.
Pizza. I don't know if you noticed, but I've got my pizza making kit on, and I'm about ready to go flip some dough. pizza is incredible because it's a metaphor for so many things that we do. There's the breaking of bread, which is how we build trust and relationships and community. There's that shared element of a pizza. But importantly, there's also the metaphor of what pizza is. Pizza is basically the same set of ingredients delivered in a bunch of different ways. We started a moment ago talking about deep dish versus thin pizza. It's a common foundation for what we do. And one of the things I wanted to mention is over the pandemic, I became one of those baking show addicts. And I watched so much baking show, every episode of the Great British Baking Show, every episode of the Great American Baking Show, more baking shows than you could imagine. But one thing that I discovered that I really have a passion for is the process of making dough. And if you think about dough, it's pretty basic. You've got flour, water, yeast, and some salt. And you wait for that chemical reaction to happen. You mix it up, but then you do something really important. And it goes back to what Matthew was talking a moment ago. You let it rest. The best dough you allow to rise. And so you work really hard, you make it, and then you allow it to rest. And that's also true for us as well. So that's a little metaphor that we can bring to the equation as well.
And the concept of secret sauce, right? You know, everyone has their particular type of sauce, whether it's store-bought, whether it's homemade. Does it include basil? Does it not? Does it include onions? Is it spicy? Is it sweet? And as we get to the personalization of pizza, it's infinite amounts of options for you to build a pizza to suit your personal tastes, right? If we look at
that's right, Matt. And I love the metaphor because if you think about it, as IT professionals, we're bringing together a lot of different ingredients to create a custom handmade pizza for a customer. But the ingredients often are very similar. You've got tomatoes, you've got cheese, you've got dough. Those are relatively consistent. How you assemble them for the most value, that's where we have these passions for different pizzas, thin pizzas or thick pizzas, or heaven forbid, the pineapple pizza. But that's where it all comes together. And it's a great metaphor because we want to build something unique, but we don't want to build it so bespoke that no one's ever seen it before. It doesn't even resemble a pizza. And I think it's just a terrific metaphor for what IT professionals are doing to create infrastructure systems and tools for users that are working remotely at all kinds of different hours of days and night.
And ultimately, the end result, fundamentally, they're all pizza.
Yeah.
But they all look different, different shapes, different sizes. Again, your deep dish versus a thin crust. And this is the beauty of cloud, right? Cloud does come in all shapes and sizes. And you can build up your tastes over time. For example, if you don't like green olives today, you may acclimatize to it over time as you pick and choose what the volume of green olives. And of course, then you're a green olive fanatic and you have it on every pizza. So I think it's a great segue, Mark, to Matt Crawford.
Absolutely. Matt, thank you for, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no,
I'll let you do it. Sure.
I was going to say, I'm hungry. I don't know if I can look at any more pizza pictures. And I know
Same.
Matt doesn't have it, but Mark, your insight is great. Thank you for joining us today. Stick around, though. Maybe a couple Q&A for you at the end.
You betcha. Thank you so much.
And with that, I'd like to introduce everyone again to Matt Crawford. Thank you for doing the emceeing and picking up while my audio was having challenges. I'm going to pass it over to you, good sir.
And all right, sounds good. Let's see if I can show my screen here, and then go into presenter mode. Let's see how that goes. All righty. Quick check there, Matt. You can hear me okay, and you're probably hopefully seeing that first slide.
Absolutely.
All right, great. Hi everyone, welcome. I hadn't heard those guys talk about the kind of the concepts and the strategy like that before. I was really interested, but and now my job actually is to take us a little bit of a click down and talk about how do we build a workspace that actually accomplishes those goals that Matt and Mark were talking about. So, helping out with employee well-being, helping people do their best work. How do you what's the strategy? How do you think about that? And so that's what we're going to dive into for the next 15 or so minutes. A little bit of background, and this is actually a pretty foundational question, right? Is what we're doing today good enough? Is the status quo good enough? And I'll build this out with a few stats. We know that people are adopting flexible work, hybrid work strategies. There's some stats there. We've done our own research on this as well. We're definitely seeing an increasing use of contractors with our customers. More and more folks are looking at sort of contract work, and that's just a general trend really worldwide. And then we're also seeing that security is an ever-present issue, right? The cost of a breach is not going down, it's only going up, and especially depending on what types of industries you guys are in on the line, that security is a major concern. So all of this is leading us to question our assumptions about work, right? And really the answer is status quo is probably not good enough, right? Yes, as Mark and Matt mentioned, heroic efforts to get us to where we are today. And so I guess it would be, tempting to rest on our laurels and say, okay, then now we're good. We've enabled some, remote work. But really, the bar keeps moving, right? And we have to keep innovating. And that's at least the way we think about it at Citrix. And one of the reasons is because people are reimagining the physical workspace. I talked about how people are, looking at this hybrid strategy. And we got surveys that show about 58% or so will reduce their office space. And they're doing this because they want to consolidate, reduce costs, simplify things for end users, for IT. And at the end of the day, it gives people more flexibility, gives IT more flexibility, more resiliency to whatever comes their way. But I want to highlight this concept right here. This is the key point. It's the concept of an everyday workspace. When we talk about status quo and what's been enabled today, it's almost like for some folks, there's two concepts, right? There's remote work, what we had to do to enable people to work from home. And then, okay, what's going to happen when everybody comes back into the office? And we at Citrix believe strongly that it's about every day, right? It's an everyday workspace. And the way that we do this and the way that we're looking at enabling customers to do this is really this idea of a platform approach. And this is what got this whole idea of a pizza analogy getting started. And that's really the analogy here, right? You have this ability to have flexible deployment options, secure workspace experience, any location, and importantly, it's an everyday workspace, right? Okay. So one of the benefits of a platform approach, I wanted to make sure I covered a couple of things here. It benefits folks from that flexible, solving for the problems of today or what you're going to need to enable work today. But importantly, that platform approach enables you to solve for whatever comes down the pipe in 2 years, 3 years. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if anybody on the line does. If you do, let me know in terms of how work is going to take place 2 to 3 years from now. So we don't know exactly. But what we do know is you want to have the flexibility to accommodate that no matter what comes, right? And so that's really how we're approaching it. And the platform approach allows you to do that. So just a quick, click into how we think of things at Citrix and how our portfolio has evolved, a little bit of our vision. We really think in terms of this platform approach. And so the idea is, you have people, devices, any device that they're using, connecting from anywhere, any type of location. And the core concept here is this workspace app. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but this is the foundational concept, and it's much more than an agent on the device. It does a lot of stuff, and I'll get into that. But importantly, they have to be able to access not only from any location, any kind of browser it may be, and any channel. We call these work channels, whether it's Teams or Slack or whatever, integrating those into a complete workspace. Now at Citrix, we have a lot of different solutions. A lot of folks on the call, I'm sure, know us for virtual apps and desktops and things like that. Actually, there's quite a few probably on the call that know us for our content collaboration and share file solutions, and maybe also endpoint management solutions as a piece of this as well. But what's relatively newer that I want to definitely touch on is how you can enable this secure, flexible work with our solutions for managing SaaS and web apps, and also intelligent solutions that include micro app technology. So I'm going to click into these things a little bit and talk about that. But importantly, that's, these are your, I guess, your toppings, if you want to use that pizza analogy. These are the types of things that you can leverage, and you can partner with a great partner like Third Octet to leverage what's the right solution, what's the right combination of ingredients for today, but know that in 2 years, the right combination may be different. For example, the right solution today may be a virtual app and desktop for a certain group of users. The right solution tomorrow may be direct access to SaaS and web apps that has nothing to do with virtualization. All of those different combinations and how you want to integrate these solutions are it's a discussion. It's up to you as the customer. Now, behind all of that are our app delivery and security technologies. I won't talk about them so much today, but they are definitely a key part of that plumbing, the backbone. And then throughout, you have security, whether it's on access security and protecting the network. But importantly, building on this idea of a platform allows the ability to have all the integrations take place, analytics take place, and giving that rich insight from a security and performance standpoint into the workspace. In fact, that's a key part of what we consider the digital workspace strategy, right? There's 4 real pillars. Number 1 is unifying work, bringing things together to make it simple for people to do their work, or to have one place to go to get their work stuff. The next real pillar there is securing that work. So you want to reduce risk. You have all these different access points and different locations. You have to be able to provide security for that. And those 2 are really foundational pillars. And of course, you have to optimize performance underneath all of that. But what's relatively newer, and what's something that I really want to get you guys thinking about, is what's really been talked about, in the opening of this webinar, is about simplifying work. And it's not just enough to get people the things they need, to work. That's step 1. It has to be secure, of course. But we're actually looking at, from a Citrix perspective, of helping our customers make the experience better for employees, helping them actually work better, get work done, and improving that experience of getting work done. That's different from just sort of saying, okay, here's your tools, and that's, at least you have them and you can now go off and do your work. It's actually giving them the capability to make that work better. And that's really the next level. And that's really where, the future is headed. That's where, in general, that's where we see IT moving. And that's where we see the success happening. So if you're in an industry where you're competing with other companies, to compete and to have the best talent to do that work, you're going to need to simplify work for them. Or if you're in an industry like government or healthcare, where it's not necessarily about competition, but it's about fulfilling that mission. If you want to have physicians provide better patient care, simplify their experience, right? That's the next level. Yes, get them access to the app. Okay, that's great, and we can do that today, right? The next level is simplifying that experience for them of all their work, right? And of course, you have to optimize for quality and performance, because that's also a part of providing that great experience. All right, so I'm going to segue a little bit. I'm going to talk about 3 main topics here in the next 5 or 6 minutes. So I'm going to go relatively fast. I know I want to make sure we have time for Ani to talk more directly about cloud. I'm going to set him up a little bit, because I want to talk about how cloud services fit into this picture. Now, when we think about cloud services, and again, lots of folks on the call are coming from different perspectives. Some are net new to Citrix, some are longtime Citrix virtual apps and desktops customers. When we think about cloud, I just want to level set on how we look at it. We're talking about transitioning, especially from a virtual apps and desktop standpoint, the management plane of that to the cloud. That's it. It's not like sort of a lift and shift of everything you have in your data center necessarily to the cloud. You can do that if you choose. But what we're talking about is the Citrix components being cloud managed. It's as simple as that, but it's also as powerful as that, because when you do that, you're able to faster adapt when you need to scale up. You reduce your management overhead, which means you can do more with the people that you have. You can always be up to date from a security standpoint, and just from a patch and versioning standpoint. No more, oh, we're on XenApp 6.5 and boy, we wish we could get to the latest version. It's an evergreen type service. That concept just goes away. And so because of that, you're able to onboard people faster, and you're able to have that flexibility then to put workloads in clouds if you choose or not. That's up to you entirely. There's definitely some benefits to that, and I know Annie will talk about that. But the main crux of it is getting that component, that Citrix, the virtual apps and desktops component, at least if you're an existing CVAD customer, up to a cloud management plane. So what does that do, and how does that relate to building out this workspace? It really brings home the concept of building out this workspace that you can pull in different components, different pizza toppings, if you will, right? So that it starts, as I mentioned on that other diagram, with the workspace app. And then the core concept here is, instead of resources, again, this is the context of an existing CVAD customer. Maybe you have a data center when you're pointing to storefront on your premises. Instead of doing that, you're pointing to the workspace experience in Citrix Cloud. That's the core concept. Now, the app is the same. The workspace app itself is technically the same thing. It's the same agent on the device, except you've unlocked the actual capability of that. It's no longer just the way to get your virtual stuff. It unlocks a lot of other things. And so those things can be fed in now through the services, right? So they can be fed into the workspace. So whether it's content services and being able to share content or have data loss prevention around content, whether it lives in OneDrive box or your own data center, we have a layer around that. From a mobile device standpoint, feeding that in so that you can have access on any device. Of course, virtual apps and desktops, I mentioned, they can be existing, stay in the data center, or they can be in any cloud. But I want to talk, like I said, I had a couple more topics, and one was around direct access to SaaS applications as a part of that feed. And then in a second, I'll talk about micro apps as a part of that feed. So let's talk about that real quick in terms of what do I mean by direct access, and what does this look like from an end user standpoint. But, I mentioned that first pillar is unification. So you want to present a unified experience. So of course it starts with single sign-on, but importantly, whatever authentication, multi-factor, or other authentication method you want to use, that's a part of it. But then the users are presented with all of their applications, whether they're not just the virtual applications or a virtual desktop. But you can see in this example, Salesforce is an example of a SaaS application directly right alongside the virtual applications. Again, one place to go, single sign-on, direct access. When you click on Salesforce, that's not launching a virtual anything. That's just a direct access to Salesforce. And it can launch on a local browser. Or if you choose, you can add additional security to it. And this is the differentiator, and this is how we build that workspace that's available on any device. A lot of folks think, okay, we're moving to SaaS, and so what happens if someone accesses a SaaS application on their like BYO device? And that's actually a potential for data leakage, or it's not as secure. So what's the answer? Oh, well, maybe we just lock down everything. We don't do BYO devices, right? We provision everybody their own device, and if you want SaaS, that's great, it's on it. But that's the only way to get it, either that or a virtual desktop on every device. And so those are two options. In terms of provisioning everybody their own device, that's a tough one, right? You want to be able to have that flexibility to access on any device. And as the pandemic has showed us, supply chains can get squirrely. And I know there's certain IT departments, hopefully no one on this call, that is like hoarding laptops that they're not using just because they may scale up later and need 100 or 200 laptops that they can't get. So we want to avoid that and have that flexibility to use any device. And so one of the ways to do that is to provide security controls around those SaaS applications. So providing that unified experience is important, and providing control. And when I say security control, I mean, a lot of people say today, okay, well, I have a single sign-on to SaaS through Microsoft or whatever. And I always ask, it's like, okay, well, how do you know that app is secure? I mean, maybe it's a medical application, whatever it happens to be. How do you know that's secure? It's like we provided single sign-on to it. Well, yeah, but then what? Can the user print from it from anywhere? Can you restrict cut and copy and paste out of it? Can you keep keyloggers from getting user credentials off of it? Can you prevent screen scraping or prevent clipping or getting snips off of that application? All these types of things you can actually do in a virtual app, but doing that directly to a SaaS app that's directly connected to the cloud, that's the value that Citrix adds. And of course, you're getting your regular desktops and things like that. and as well as I mentioned files and content coming in as a part of that workspace experience. All right, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and talk about this part about the employee experience, right? 70% of people are working remotely at least 5 days per month, but that's going to be more, right? And they're navigating all these apps. They're doing sometimes low value work. They're spending their time managing things and often just looking for information. They're distracted and they're struggling with projects and things like that. So how can we help people get more time back in their day, right? That simplify work piece. And so the way that we're thinking about it is in typical Citrix fashion. If you've been around Citrix for any length of time, you know any is a part of our story. So any user, any location, any device, any application, I mentioned SaaS and web applications is something that maybe people don't know as much, that direct single sign-on access to that. But we've expanded that now, and it's really now any work type. So that means whether it's project management, collaboration, even low-code workflows and things like that are all a part of the portfolio. In fact, that's how this whole thing comes together, right? You have projects, tasks, content, workflows to help work get done, and all this aggregation comes together. So we're actually unifying work across different work types, especially with this acquisition of Rike, which is a relatively recent acquisition. And it really does that. It kind of brings this workspace together. It adds more functionality to it in terms of project management. And then one other thing I wanted to tee up that's a piece of this puzzle, I mentioned micro apps, and I was going to talk about that. And the concept here is, for most applications, people just use 4 or 5 key functions with this. So a lot of people, they have access to a ton of applications, but for most of them, they use sparingly, or they use just 4 or 5 key things out of them. But the reality is, and you know how user behavior is, you launch that application, you have to navigate to it. It's frustrating sometimes, especially if it's something you don't do on a daily basis. And it kind of takes up a lot of time and adds friction to people's day. And so our response to that is to have these micro apps that improve worker productivity by just offering up the part of that application that they need to get done. And it's a part of the workspace. There's a lot of built-in integrations, hundreds with different applications out there. And you can just simply do these tasks within the workspace as opposed to opening up the full application. So that saves time, reduces frustration. And it just, again, it's going back to now that pillar around simplifying work, right? Making work better for people and making things easier. So we have a lot of out-of-the-box integrations for that. I'm not going to dive into that too much because I know I'm getting a little short on time. But the whole idea is we're providing this intelligent experience now. So that UI that I showed, user interface I showed before, where we're unifying work with those applications, that's one phase. But now with this intelligent experience, you can search across these applications, but you also have this personalized feed that can have notifications and things about work that you can then take action on via micro apps, right? In this case, it's just a sales report coming from, in this case, Tableau. So the key concept here is that they're streamlined workflows. Any application is in scope, a lot of out-of-the-box templates, but the power is, especially when you're working with a partner like Octet, you can design these micro apps for whatever your exact application and business need is that's going to add value to your workforce and help them be more productive. And more productive means having this consistent experience across, whether it's a shared workstation, any kinds of personal devices, corporate laptops, and of course mobile devices as well, right? I mean, it's the same, it's I guess the similar experience, but obviously customized for use on a mobile device, but very intuitive experience. And so the whole idea here, and this is a slide that I know Ani has in his presentation as well, it'll be a good segue here to kind of pitch it over to Ani, is that we know this is a journey, right? You're in a certain place now, but you want to think about the future and embrace these different types of cloud technologies, these turnkey services to get to that anywhere workspace. But the important thing is, to take that first step. And the first step really should be thinking about, how do I build a platform that can lead me to where I need to be? So with that, I know that was a little bit of a whirlwind. I wanted to kind of make sure I covered a lot of stuff that I think would be of interest to this team. I know that we have some Q&A later, so I'm gonna hopefully take some questions in. But with that, Matt, I'll pass it back over to you. And actually, probably I think Ani is coming up after me.
Yeah, thanks for that, Matt. And I'll tell you one thing missing from that slide there is stumble, because when I started this presentation, I stumbled. And as you can see, I gave up on all the fancy technology to try to make this look professional. I clearly stumbled. Next time I'll walk, maybe with just different audio instead of video. But thank you very much, Matt. I will pass it over to Ani. We are good time. A couple questions have come in. Thank you again. Ani, over to you, my friend.
Thanks, Matt.
Just let him tee up his slides. We can see you. Your audio is a little distant.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you see my slide?
Yes.
You can?
Yes.
It's not.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's not in presentation mode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oops. Is that better?
There you go.
All right, perfect. So, oops. Okay, thank you, guys. So, like I said, my name is Anirudh Octet. I work with the Strategic Business Advisor at Citrix, and I'm going to take this from a little bit of a different angle. I'm going to talk about from a business outcome perspective, and in two segments. Why now, in terms of the timelines that we're in, the inflection point that the industry is in, from a digital transformation and the move to the cloud perspective, and then talk a little bit about why Citrix Cloud and why Citrix is a good partner to partner with in this transformation journey. So if you look at digital transformation, the fourth industrial revolution, cloud, and all these things have been around for at least a decade in different ways, shape, or forms. And different people and different organizations across industries have tried to go at it in multiple attempts, and have kind of come back to realize that digital transformation is not an act, but it's a process, and it's a fundamental foundational change of delivering different value to the big customers that they're addressing, leveraging technology platforms like Matt just talked about. And cloud is a fundamental tool that digital transformation is leveraging to do that. But more importantly, if you look at our own lives, how we're interacting with the world, in terms of what we expect as a customer experience, if you look at how we are interacting with retail businesses or listening to music with the likes of Apple Music and others that have come to fore, or how we used to do it in the past. And all these things different in terms of banking, in terms of finance. You take any industry, any interaction that we have in our own lives has fundamentally changed, and expectations are very different. And this disruption that's coming in with a lot of new entrants driving different business models, leveraging the cloud, leveraging technology to disrupt the status quo and lowering the barriers to entry. So no longer is it true that if you're a large business and have a dominant market share, that you'll be safe and secure if you don't continuously look at the transformation that's going around you. And so if you look at some of the metrics that are put up here in terms of digital transformation and the move to the cloud, what you'll notice out here is that the spend from technology perspective is phenomenally higher towards DX, digital transformation, and the motion to the cloud, almost to the tune of $2 trillion and rising ever so increasingly. 50% of C-level executives are looking at disruptive business models and challenges through their market leadership and their business, and they are concerned and looking at different ways and means to stay competitive in the market space that they're being in. But also what you notice is only 25% odd in terms of different surveys and studies done are really executing digital strategies completely, not in silos, not in bits and pieces, to stay competitive as they move forward. The startling fact that's come across in all these studies is if these changes are not adapted to and stayed ahead of by customers, 40% of Fortune 500 companies essentially will be wiped out in the next decade or so. So these are some contexts and perspectives that I wanted to share with you in terms of why this is essential, why now, and what's that inflection point industry is going towards. But something else that was also kind of pushing industries and organizations to move in this direction is what I call personalization. So we talked of pizzas. So people like pizza the way they like it. People like to access different things the way they. So it's called the personalization. You want a car the way you want it. You want a computer that works to your needs versus trying to adapt to that needs. And this personalization is throwing huge challenges to businesses that were going to organize around the second and third industrial revolution to produce mass services and mass products in volumes to drive the costs down and keep their margins, but they now have to pivot to be able to offer variants of smaller volumes for the customers, because the customer experience is king, and customers have a relatively low patience in terms of staying with businesses who don't adapt to their needs. So if you go further down and dive a little deeper into these trends that are happening, you notice that cloud is a fundamental way, a cloud first mindset is the first step towards going towards a digital transformation journey. And a lot of technologies, be it from IoT, sensors, edge devices, robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, are kind of best used from the cloud perspective to drive that innovation, to drive that transformation for your business. And if you look at it from an IT perspective, a CIO, CTO perspective, no longer are organizations, CEO and boards of companies looking at IT as a cost bucket only, or are looking at IT as a support function. But we have gone through a pandemic, and it has shown what IT can do when leveraged right, to be able to not only strengthen business outcomes, but to be able to drive employee experience, well-being, like Matt alluded, be the front line to ensure the lights are on, business is going, and customers and societies are being delivered key critical services across industry segments. And there are very specific industry use cases across healthcare, manufacturing, retail, financial sector, banking, and so on and so forth, that have come across where people have leveraged this successfully, profitably, to drive growth for their businesses and enhancement to the employee benefits by driving transformational change. The second thing that you notice is that most CIOs are looking at moving non-value add day-to-day operations to cloud services, so that they can then now focus on value add services. Because what's happening, also what we see, and when I interact with customers across industries, is lines of business, be it manufacturing, distribution, warehousing, customer-facing lines of businesses. They cannot wait for the entire change to happen. So what they're doing is deploying shadow ITs to be able to leverage the benefits and the edge of differentiation of the cloud to be able to stay competitive while the overall change progresses. So these are some of the things that we see in terms of adoption of cloud, where 60% of North American enterprises are already on public cloud platforms, driving that change and transformation for the business. From a flexibility perspective, what we notice is not everyone is going all hog in a big bang approach, but more of a hybrid approach between private cloud, on-premise, public cloud, and a combination of that. And the spend from an infrastructure cloud perspective is massive when we look at the numbers that are coming out from various studies. And they're significant, and they're prioritizing the hybrid cloud journey, like Matt talked about, where you have a walk, jog, run approach versus trying to do it all at once, which has failed many times over and hurt businesses as they go across. If you look at from a customer perspective, most of the customers, 75% plus, are on a hybrid cloud. Through the pandemic and beyond, and this accelerated after the pandemic, the employee experience, the physical transformation, the hybrid work model is what's driving this in terms of adoption and fast adoption on going to the cloud and transforming businesses. So having looked at the inflection point and the imperatives from a business perspective, what is Citrix doing for their customers, and why Citrix is the best partner moving forward on this journey for customers? First of all, Citrix, like all you have been Citrix customers for a while, have been in the business for over 3 decades, delivering value through their on-premise solutions, virtual apps, desktops, content collaboration, endpoint management, networking, security, and so on and so forth. So these are tried and tested business proven solutions. But now what Citrix is doing is not just taking the solution and putting it on the cloud, but like you saw in the workspace presentation just before me, we're kind of putting a platform together that combines all of these things on the cloud to deliver faster business value to our customers in a very secure fashion to enhance the experience and, more importantly, drive value focused integrations so that less time is going in non-value add work, but more focused on our customers' delivery to their audience of customers. And so therefore, with Citrix, what we are working with our customers in digital transformation is to look at starting small and then expanding seamlessly across the lines of business of our customers to align the IT objectives with the business objectives, which is very critical because nothing can happen for technology's sake, but it has to be in tune with the objectives of the business and how that IT journey in digital transformation can be an enabler versus a cost or a technology play is what we are driving with our customers. If you think about what most people used to talk about soft benefits and hard benefits, employee experience, 1% turnover in an organization drops productivity by 40% or more, and it impacts your EBITDA by almost 26%. Give or take a few on different studies have come across different numbers, but it's critical that employee experience, customer experience are not soft or benefits, but critical as we move forward in this digital transformation process across different industries. Employee engagement, hiring and retaining talent. To match example, the Gen Zs that are coming out, and most customers are finding it hard to attract talent to come in because they expect certain experiences when they come to work, and they're not willing to compromise on how they want to work. And therefore, unless you set up an environment that's conducive to great employee and work experience, you struggle to get that talent come in, which also then impacts your profitability and competitiveness as a business. So if you look at from your today on-prem deployment and how we would like, or we are taking customers, we are taking the same deployments, but then slowly walk, jog, and running with our customers towards the ultimate goal of reaching the profitability and the competitive edge that our customers need to be driving the business forward. And that's what we do from a Citrix perspective by offering a few things, not all of them, but a few of them I thought I'll mention are very critical. When you go into cloud, cloud consumption drives expenses from a cloud model. And we have within Citrix Cloud Services and capabilities around autoscale, which allows you to optimize your cloud consumption and thereby controlling your cost, yet being able to deliver maximum benefits to your business and your customers. Other thing that I wanted to call out beyond many others is the ability for us to take migration from on-premise to cloud through some automated configuration tools and scripts that we have developed and kind of deploy to customers to be able to minimize the risk and be able to take your current on-premise environment into the cloud in a very secure and non-impactful manner to the end users. So almost like changing tires while driving the car. And therefore, there are some critical things that we have developed in our offerings. When you do go to the cloud, like Matt talked about, moving the control plane to the cloud, it allows you a lot of benefits in terms of getting analytics on your network, on your employees, on security, all in a single pane that allows you to be able to be very proactive and respond to your users and consumers of the technology in various businesses. And not all of them are in offices. In some industries, they are in the warehouse, they are outside in the service fields and doing the jobs. And so therefore, it becomes very critical for you to be able to optimize that experience. The cloud is a great way for you to do that with Citrix Cloud approach. So at the end of it, if you look at any transformation or any decision that you make, it has to kind of tie into your goals as a business to be able to offer across our organization, not just in IT or office employees, but across the organization, be it in manufacturing, in distribution, in marketing, in sales, in customer-facing functions, back-end functions, a consistent experience where you can offer the right information to the right person at the right time in the right context. Because on an average, what we have seen when we work with customers is every employee typically in each function is looking and logging into 4 to 5 different applications to be able to get the data and the information for them to do their job. And an idea of having a workspace, a single portal that presents to you information and workflows that are pertinent to you to do your job and focus on what you need to get done versus trying to find information, translate information from different applications and be distracted takes away a lot of value from any application that you're deploying on-premise or on cloud. But workspace is a great way of securing it on any device, any location, any user, any function, but also being able to present the right information, right time, right format. And I've seen a lot of cases where the value that is generated just from doing that is phenomenal in terms of response time to their customers or being able to solve customer problems. So strategic advisory is a way that Citrix engages with customers to be able to kind of, with Citrix Cloud, to kind of take the next step in terms of how do I get from where I am to where I need to go. And that is the process that we engage customers to pick a particular project or a work group, pilot it, kind of get the results, tweak it, and then deploy it in production. And that's what I had, and I look forward to any question and answers that we go forward to. But I think it's very critical for IT to realize that IT is no longer a back-end cost function, but it's the front line in terms of transforming businesses. And with that, I end my presentation. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Ani. That was great. We did have a couple questions come in. Just want to make sure I'm not muted and stumbling again. But I very much appreciate Mark Monday. Great insight. I'm looking forward to talking to you more in the future and seeing what great employee experience, well-being, and what content Citrix continues to create and find and help guide us through the next phases of work.
You bet. Thank you, Matt. I'm looking forward to sharing a pizza with you sometime this year. That's my goal for the year.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I haven't been out to the Pacific Northwest in quite some time. I have family in BC, and I've been to Seattle all the way down and remade the Goonies on Cannon Beach, I believe it was. A lot of great times out there.
Well, I got a deal for you. Let's meet at Whistler, and that'll be a perfect combination for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I look forward to that. And Matt Crawford, you know, watching all your videos leading up to today, I was very excited about what you'd have to say, and you lived up to the expectations. Thank you again for joining. And Ani, you know, great insight. One of the questions actually that came about is, can current or customers or businesses that are actually considering Citrix or a transition to Citrix Cloud, how do they engage with you know, value engineering, strategic advisory?
Great question. So I think it's through your partner organization, through the Citrix sales organization, you can reach out to us, and it's a bunch of things that we do in collaboration with our other fellow colleagues in Citrix. It's essentially to, like I said, drive the right combination of things to impact business outcomes. And come up to a conclusion with the customer in a partnership model. So that's the way I would suggest reaching out to us to be able to leverage us into driving the transformation.
Great, thank you, sir. And you know, I think this question was actually answered and demonstrated in the 2 slides, and it was around where or how can customers get started on transitioning to cloud. And what I think the best way to address this question is, one, obviously revisiting the content of this presentation later. We'll also distribute it to the attendees today. But this actually, I'll answer this a bit in the next step slide. And it is 2:22 here in Eastern time zone. I did want to give you some time back. Take time back is a popular hashtag that Citrix has been advocating for. There are a few other questions, but what I'm going to do is actually address those separately to all attendees after the event. And, you know, when we think about next steps, At Third Octet, we're very much interested in your success as a customer, as is Citrix. And what we've done here for customers who are already invested in Citrix but using an on-premises deployment, we have a package known as a readiness assessment. This identifies your existing environment and identifies potential roadblocks that would inhibit success in moving to Citrix Cloud, or identify the ideal use cases that should be considered first, right? That walk phase. I would invite anyone who is interested in that to contact me. My email and phone number are there for your information. The second one, for customers who really want to understand more. When we started this event, I started throwing around the term a brief executive briefing. Right, just to give you a synopsis of the caliber of Matt's team and Ani's team on what they can do to really highlight the value Citrix Cloud can bring to your business. Executive briefings really give you a broad exposure and a deep visibility into product roadmaps, as well as areas that would benefit your business. I highly recommend speaking with us or your Citrix field representatives or account managers in an executive briefing. And last but not least, how Ani was highlighting there, this value engineering exercise. This is really an interesting area to explore outside of the technical bits and pieces that Third Octet would look at. Right? Let's look at the broader business and strategic imperatives and align that to what Citrix Cloud can provide to the business. Value engineering. Very great exercise to partake. So with that, give you a couple minutes back in your day, 5 minutes about. I do apologize again for the stumblings I did early on and over talking Mark and Matt as they picked up my dropped ball. But nonetheless, thank you, Mark Monday. Thank you, Matt Crawford. Thank you, Ani. And thank you, everyone, for joining today. It's been a pleasure. It's Thursday, almost Friday, another weekend upon us. Any last words, gents?
I just wanted to say thank you again, Matthew. It's been a pleasure. And the place we're going to meet is called Creek Bread in Whistler. And it's one of my absolute favorite places on the planet to have pizza. So that's the place. We just have to pick a date.
Oh, I hope I'll be able to get out there one day soon here in Ontario. It's looking better, but we've still got a ways to go. Well,
and take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. And be patient and kind with one another. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Ani. Everyone, have yourself a great day and a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.